Welcome, everybody, to the Coaches in the Pod. Jeff Williams here with the Mouth Bender, Coach Bray Cook. We got our BSN guest, Kyle Sutherland from Scorebook Live. Let's get into 4A. And we're going to talk 4A and 5A here. Let's start with 4A. Malvern, defending state champions last year. Just an amazing bunch. Got a lot of people back. Bo Hemritt Warren feels really good about his football team. Talked to Jeremy Burns at Ozark. We're going to have him on. Casey Chester from first-year head coach at Pocahontas. And then Coach Plumley from Malvern. We're going to do some interviews with them. Give me your full take of 4A, which is one of the most fun classifications to break down.
Well, I think probably that's one of the ones that you could point at, and it's like kind of like, we were discussing with 3A, and, Hazen for 2A, certainly the favorite there probably, and then Boonville, the runner-up, they've got more coming back than Charleston. But, you go back to all these and in each class, and you certainly have to look at the champions from last year. And Malvern pretty much has as many coming back as any state champion, and Harding Academy has just about as many coming back as any runner-up, as any team in the state finals. So certainly have to look at those two teams. Like you said, Warren is always in that mix. I think Nashville, they struggled in 2021, missed the playoffs for the first time in 30 years, made a semifinal run last year, and I don't think probably many people saw that happening. They were the road team essentially throughout the entire playoffs, and they embraced that. So Nashville, definitely going to be back again, and then Rivercrest and Elkins, the two teams from each corner of the state, basically, that I think are real, especially Rivercrest, year in and year out. It seems like that they just get overlooked outside of the Northeast Arkansas area. So I think that's probably, what I just named 6, the really good ones to start off with. Also really like Arkadelphia a lot. They're breaking in a new quarterback, still got a lot of skill players. Actually, I say they still got a lot of skill players. They got 2 good running backs, but they lose a lot of their production at wide receiver. So, those 6, 7 teams, I think definitely good ones to start with.
And you're going to matchups in conference.
The 4A7 is just
that's tough as leading the state.
Yeah.
From top to bottom.
Yeah. Well, and real quick on that, when it started, what was that, 06 that they started with the 6 and 7As? That was when it was the 4A7 was CAC, which is where I played, Nashville, Oak Grove, which is now Maumelle, Ashdown. We still had some this was before Robinson and Malvern, but I say all that to say it's been good since it first got there. This was back during CAC's heyday and all that. So it's just been brutal since its existence, basically.
Well, it has been. I played high school football in 4A at the time. I don't even know what classification is, different A's back then. Yeah. But it's just all over the state. Just rich tradition programs and just a fun the matchups, the rivals that go back for years and years and years, and then there's matchups. You talk about Warren and Nashville. You talk, that series. And we had Bo Emery on earlier and did a podcast with him, and that's such a big rival. But let's do this. Let's start off first. Let's go talk to the defending state champion and JD Plumley. JD, great to have you on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Well, we've been sitting around, we've been talking about 4A, the classifications of 4A. You won it last year. With a great team and really went the hard road to do it. Talk to us, just looking and reading magazines and different things. You got a lot of players coming back. Talk to us about your team, coming off a state championship last year. How do you rekindle that, and talk about some of the guys you got coming back?
We did. We had a heck of a ride, and we do have a lot of guys coming back. And, we are missing one humongous piece, and that's going to be my quarterback that I had, moved up when I first got the job. He was a 4-year starter, Cedric Simmons. When you have a guy that's a 4-year starter going into those big-time games, he was the calmest guy on the field probably, and that's including the coaches. And so, he's going to be a huge loss. And our 2 defensive tackles, Davion Jenkins and Leonard Leach, they both played with me in the All-Star game a couple of weeks ago. Those are huge pieces that we're going to fill. But, it's always nice when you have your running back coming back that was a state MVP, almost 3,000 yards rushing, 47 touchdowns, and then our whole offensive line's back. And then we have a 1,000-yard receiver coming back. And so we've got some pieces. I think a lot of people think that we're just going to be run heavy. But I think that there toward the end of the run last year, we showed people we could throw when we had to. And so I like to say we're balanced, and I like to say that we're going to be balanced moving into this year. And but I don't want to take anything away from our defense. All of our linebackers are back. And our Angel Perez led us in tackles. He doesn't get a lot of recognition because he just, he's in one of those positions where all of a sudden you look up, though, he's got 15 tackles on the night, but everybody's talking about Jalen Dupree, Keenan Janelle, Vinny Winters, and Dylon Caradine. Those are the four playmakers, and, those are the ones that's getting all the love, and accolades. But I think Jalen, if he was sitting here instead of me, would tell you that it's the offensive line up front led by Vinny Winters, our big left tackle. He's 6'4", 300 pounds. And so there's no secret. Third and short, fourth and short, we're going to run left. And sometimes I do feel like the field is tilting left, and that's okay as long as it's working.
Well, no doubt. They always run behind your guys. People say they know we're running there. Well, our guy's better than you there. So this ain't real hard, And so, well, talk to us about this. And one thing, I'm a old football coach, but, I love high school football. In the league that you play in, and I'm going to get all these coaches on there talking about, what a tough league they play in, and they do. But the league that you play in, that conference, I love getting the paper going, my God, look at this game. There's 2 or 3 games in your conference every week are just such a monumental game and means so much. Talk to us about your league. I mean, you got – Nashville, Arkadelphia, you're talking about state championship programs sitting in your league. So if you can get in, you got a shot. But talk to us about how difficult the league is.
It is. And, Ashdown is usually our first. Usually when Ashdown comes to town and we come down there, it's, they're undefeated or we've only lost 1 or 2. And that's always a big game. And that's week 5, and it's kind of, you got a lot of games left, but that's a kind of a big stepping stone or check mark, if you will, to where you're at right now. What type of ball you playing, and then we've got Nashville, down there week 9, and then Arkadelphia week 10, and and so that's tough to end the season. But what I love about it is you tell your guys, I mean, I know the Arkadelphia game and our game last year, week 10, was all hyped up, and we had to cancel it because of storm. And they came to town and whooped our tail on Saturday at home. There was nothing we could do about it. They just rubbed our nose in it and made us like it. And I thought that game really woke us up. And so what I like about our conferences is that you can get humbled week 5, 6, or 7, and I like that. And I think that it's high school football, right? Those are environments you want to play in. And I believe that the Ashdown game, that when they came to us, it was our homecoming. Had all the state media there, and then when we went to Nashville, it was their senior night, and they were playing really well. And that, when we went down there in the regular season, that was for kind of sold up second place for us. Mm-hmm. Then obviously us in Arkadelphia, that was a huge crowd, standing room only. And what I think it does is when you get to the Warrens, like we did in the quarterfinals, I don't know if the moment, it wasn't too big for us because we'd been in those type games. We'd been down before. We'd been down multiple scores before. And so I think it helps our guys get ready. And that as a former coach, the more you can get in those environments, the better you're going to be, the more you see them.
Well, and I agree with that. And the people that don't know, Arkadelphia and Malvern's a big. I've been to a couple of those games. I mean, that's a big. They're right down the road, and they got good players, and you got good players. And it's a big rival. And I understand. I mean, we used to, when I was at Southside, play Northside the last game of the year, and there wasn't going to be any bigger playoff atmosphere than that game. And so I'm with you. I think it prepares you, and you're better off if you got to go to Warren, you're ready for that moment. Obviously, there's a lot of people are going to put y'all number 1 in 4A. Some people are, some people aren't. Obviously, there's a lot of teams with Warren. We named Arkadelphia, Nashville. We named a bunch of them off. Ozark, those, all kinds of teams. And I think 4A is probably one of the hard. And you've won state championships in 6A as an assistant and other places, but 4A football might be the toughest one to win because there's the quality of so many good teams. Talk to us a little bit about where the Malvern Leopards are and that mix in the state. Obviously, you feel pretty good about it, how hard it is it's going to be able to repeat. And where do y'all think y'all fit in the mix?
I think, obviously you can't hide it. People are going to talk about us repeating. We have, everybody's out there saying we have everybody back, and we do have a core nucleus back, and we can't hide it. We've already talked about it. We talked about it all spring. We talked about it all summer. We're gonna accept the challenge, right? Like that is our goal, is to win it. We're the last couple of years where our goal was to get in the playoffs and make a run, and we did that. We made a run. We won it. So we're not going to hide it. We're going to talk about it. I mean, our goal is to go win to War Memorial again, and I think we know the formula now of how to get there. Doesn't mean you can replicate it every year, obviously. But we have an idea, and you already mentioned the Warrens, but you can't rule out the Rivercrests. They've got a lot of guys back. They're super athletic. You've got Star City down there. They got a bunch of guys back. Josh Price does an unbelievable job at Stuttgart. So there's always 6 to 7 teams that you could honestly highlight and take it to Saracen and have a really good chance of winning. And so we're honored to be in that talk and that mix. I'm super proud of our community and the town of Malvern to kind of be talked about as a state champion level program again. And so our kids are working hard. They understand the formula. I went out and scheduled Prosper, Texas, week 0. We're playing that new Prosper school at OBU week 0. And then I've got DeSoto Central, Mississippi coming week 4 to our place. And so, I did that by design to and if we go out and get beat those games, it's not the end of the world. I just wanted to go out and play the best competition I could play to help us get ready for that playoff run. So, hey, we're excited about it. I'm ready for vacation to be over and get back in there Monday morning, 8:00, and see the guys and get ready to go. And just understand that it's a long 14-week process once the ball's kicked off, week 0, and kind of understand how to take care of our bodies. And, I say this a lot, and people probably get tired of hearing it, but last year, I thought one of the biggest things that we did well as a coaching staff was when we got to week 11 and 12, we started, playing our best guys both ways. And they had juice left when it mattered. And, my philosophy is going to be this year, you're not going to see Jalen Dupree playing linebacker, early in the season, or Vinny Winters playing D tackle, or Keelan Janelle playing defensive end. We're going to kind of try to wait and play those guys, late in the season in the playoffs and keep their bodies fresh. And so we can make a run and got plenty of legs left to do it.
Well, I think you'll make a run, and like you named some of those teams, and I'll get you off here, is 7 or 8 teams. It's fun to watch how that works out in the playoffs just because of one injury, a bad matchup. I mean, and there's a good football team sitting at home. So we look forward to it. Hey, I promise you we'll have you on this season. I know for sure you'll be a top 10 game of the week a few times this year just on the magnitude of your conference. So we'll be back in touch with you. Hey, appreciate you coming on. Good luck to the Malvern Leopards this year, and good luck to you.
Hey, Coach, thank you, and thank you for what you're doing for Arkansas high school football. I've always looked up to you, and you're a great ambassador for all of us, and I'm glad you're still with us.
Well, I appreciate it. We have a lot of fun. That's the main thing. And everything.
That's it.
Let's see you down the road, JD. Take care, buddy.
All right, bye-bye.
They've got a lot of people back, obviously. He's very confident in his football team, and it's in a brutal league. Arkadelphia, Nashville. Bauxite's up there. They're going to be better, and they got a great football player. And, Ashdown. What's your take on that league? You got to start with that league.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, Bauxite actually moved to the 4A4, right. So they're probably going to be the favorite in it. But yeah, long time 4A7 team. But yeah, that's the thing is Coach Richardson's got loads of athletes down there at Ashdown. It's just kind of like, can they get past the second round? That's the biggest thing for me is they've had some really good times in the regular season. I think they got 4th last year, but started off like 4 or 5-0. So it's, can they play up to their best week in and week out is really what it comes down to. And again, I'm biased because I played in the 4A7. I just know the brutality of it. I mean, you look at the history, just all the state champions from there with Robinson and Arkadelphia, Nashville historically and all that. But that's kind of, to me, is I think definitely with Malvern, I've talked to Coach Plumlee a lot lately because he's had 3 Division I commits in the last month. So been talking to him about that and very excited for what they have it wouldn't shock me to see Jalen Dupree at quarterback some. I mean, I'm not necessarily saying throw it, but, they've done some direct snaps with him and all that. But, you certainly, just because they're the defending champions, you pretty much got to put them as the favorite. But, Harding Academy, they got a really good quarterback. They've got 2 really good receivers. That's an outstanding offensive lineman. They've got guys that have been starting on the offensive line since 9th grade. 2 of them I know for sure. So that's, who was in the state championship game last year. Yep. I think those are the first 2 you got to look at.
And that's amazing. Harding Academy, they dominate 2A, 3A with the private school deal that, they've moved up. And Brent, that's you spend a lot of time over there.
That's my bailiwick right there. It's amazing what Coach Neil Evans and his staff do at Harding Academy. My nephew started going there in they moved from Stuttgart. He started going there in the 11th grade and played on 2 state championship teams. Then my niece, she started 7th grade, however how old she is. She won a state championship, or 9th grade. So they won like 3 of the last 4 state championships before last year, I believe. Is that correct? And whether they were in 3A or 4A, and it seems like Harding Academy always has a quarterback that for my nephew's 2 state championships, Caden Sipe was the quarterback, and Kyle Duggar,
Ty Duggar,
yeah. The wide receiver number 20. He was just a football playing dude. And my nephew's junior year, they had the high school equivalent at running back to Christian McCaffrey.
Well, if you're talking about Andrew Miller, so he's
the player before Andrew.
Okay. Let's say because Andrew Miller's brother Owen is now the quarterback.
So then Andrew took over and then Andrew just took over again. I believe his number was number 4 when he was playing for the Wildcats, and it's just amazing. Every year, I don't know why it seemed like they moved up. My sister said, it seems like they think we're recruiting players. I said, look at what they're playing with. They're not recruiting players.
And that's dating all the way back to Bill Barton. They've won a B, they've won an A, they've won a 2A, they've won a 3A.
Won everywhere.
So, yeah, it's,
my nephew was a starting 5'8" nose guard, 200. He was a fire plug out there. He could run, though. He could go sideline to sideline.
Yeah.
Let's stay in Northeast Arkansas. Let's go to my hometown, who I'm really looking forward and excited about Casey Chester being the new head coach there. Let's bring him on. Let's bring on Coach Casey Chester. Coach, you've been at Pocahontas for a long time. Obviously,
22 years.
The Pocahontas High School, by the way. That's because I'm from there, but it's big on the Redskins. Big deal for us. You're coming in, and Pocahontas has had success over the years, 30 years. And it's been pretty dominant. First, second in the conference every year. Talk to me. Let's throw it out here. Here's a big question. Connor Baker. Connor Baker has been the guy at Pocahontas for the last 3 years. There was a lot of other good players, 4 years. And what's life going to be without Connor Baker, and what's your team look like for this upcoming year?
Well, we got 54 players out, which is a good number. We got 15 seniors. Bad news is we returned 3 on offense, but we got 6 back on defense. So feel good about our defense. Offense, 2 of those players are all-state players, though. Our left guard, Caleb Bettis, he's about 6'2", 230, and he was the state champion in the disc. Very good athlete, runs well, 3-year starter. The other one's Reagan Womack. He's our running back, 6'3", 250. He's committed to Ouachita Baptist. I don't think Ouachita Baptist is going to use him as a running back, though.
No, I don't.
We've got him down there. But he's our running back, but he's committed to Ouachita Baptist for, I think, tight end or offensive line.
Well, if we got a 6'3", 250 running back, we ought to make a yard whenever we want to. That's the way I feel about it,
He was our running back last year, but he weighed 230.
I got you. I got you. Well, talk to us about this. We've been talking 4A football, talking to J.D. Plumley at Malvern. We talked to Jeremy Burns at Ozark. We've had Bo Henry on earlier this year. Talk to us about your league. I mean, that league has really improved a lot over the last few years, it's a tough league in that area, even with Rivercrest and all that deal. I mean, they've made runs and bumped up and all, from 3A to 4A, been state champions and Blytheville and all. How that league's changed and how tough it is, and where does the Redskins fit in there?
Well, the Redskins we're going to struggle. Looking at the conference, if you're a horse racing man, Rivercrest is probably 1-9, 3-5 favorite. They have everybody back. They beat Star City in the second round last year, played Arkadelphia close for a half. I think third quarter it might have got out of hand. They have everybody back. They have a receiver named Michael Rayner, one of the best players we've had in this conference in a long time. So it starts with Rivercrest. And then Gosnell. Gosnell has a receiver, Cam Williams. He's got, I think, 5 or 6 Division I offers. Notre Dame, Oklahoma State, some of those schools are after him. So Gosnell's really, their junior high was 9-0 last year. All those guys, they'll be coming up to play as well. So starts with and then you have Blytheville. Blytheville's got a new coach. They have a running back named Tim Brown. Got a receiver named Ingram Battles. I think both those guys. I know Tim Brown was All-State last year. Rushed for probably 1,300 yards. Ingram Battles one of the fastest guys in 4A. So very tough. We just hope to hold our own, get in there and do the best we can do.
Well, and y'all have. I mean, y'all have done well in that league, and obviously you got a young team, but y'all always do a great job of developing guys. I mean, with your numbers, and your numbers are good.
We lift weights.
You lift a lot of weights.
Offensive line should be good. We've got a 10th grader. He started as a 9th grader last year, played all 12 games. His name's Carter Couch. He's about 6'3", 240. Never had a bad snap. Great player. Our offensive line has to play well for us to have a chance.
Well, and when Pocahontas has been good in the offense, defensive line, they've had good years, and obviously,
correct.
And
we have our quarterback. He's the point guard on the basketball team. Runs good, can throw. So we're excited about him. He's just inexperienced, but we know he can play. So we're excited to have him at quarterback.
Well, to talk to us about this is, you're going in. I mean, anytime you become a first-year head coach, you're going to learn something. I mean, it's just different, in that part of it. But you're very familiar with that program. I mean, you played there, you've coached there 20-something years. I mean, you the community, you grew up there, all about it and understand it. What does it take, as far as, you've talked about this, on the phone or just where, is that playoff run. Y'all have had a couple of good playoff runs. You've been right there. And I think with your league being so much better, you're used to it when it gets that time.
Well, the last 4 years, we've had really good teams. But 4 years ago, we ran into Shiloh.
Yeah.
3 years ago, we ran into Ozark, I think. 2 years ago, Robinson, and last year, Nashville. We've had some good teams, but boy, 4A is tough.
Oh yeah,
it's tough to win. I mean, it's hard to advance.
Well, and we were talking about this earlier. It's about, I think 4A, it's the hardest one to win one in, because there's most of the other classifications. Let's be honest. There's 4 teams in there. They're usually going, unless something get hurt or something happen, they're in the mix. Well, you get in 4A, it's 7 or 8 or up to 10 sometimes. And with the season being so long,
that playoff bracket comes out and you're looking at names you want to play, but there's nowhere you want to be.
Yeah.
Last year we played Nashville. If we win, we play Elkins. I don't know if you guys saw Elkins or not.
Well, I've seen
They were phenomenal.
Yeah.
You did not want to play Elkins. They were great. And I think they have all those guys back this year.
They do. I've actually seen them in a few team camps. They get some really good, nice skill guys, and Coach Watson's done a great job over there. Well, talk to me. This is, you're going through the conference. You stay healthy. how do you feel as far as your matchup with people? How do you feel, if you got to go south, you got to go. I mean, y'all done it all. I mean, you've been south, you've been west, you played at home, and that part of it. What are you going to bring to the table? And you've been there, and you understand it. And nobody wants to go further in the playoffs than Coach Chester. I promise you that and your kids will be ready for that. But I think it's wide open. I really do. Malvern's sitting there, and Harding Academy and Bo feels like they got a good team. You got a young team, but you're in the mix. Talk to Jeremy Burns; they're in the mix also. Stuttgart here or there, and there's so many. Where do y'all actually? What's your mindset going into that deal?
What I like about our team is our right tackle is going to be 6'7", 340. We're 280 across the board, 240, whatever. We should be able to run the football. In playoff time, the weather may be bad, may be terrible. We're going to have a 250-pound running back. So we think if we can get there, you're going to have to stop us. You're going to have to stop those guys. And I think that'll give us a chance. That'll give us a chance against anybody because I think we can run the ball.
Well, and I think if you can run the ball, play a little defense, and I know you got to score nowadays. The days of scoring 24 and walking off the field feeling good about it, that's a long time old with. But you're right. If you can run the ball and your defense always travels, I think so. Well, Coach, I appreciate having you on. We're going to have you on during the year. You'll have a few top 10 games a week. I've kind of looked through the season, and we'll have you on there and bring you back on for another segment during the season. Hey, good luck to the Redskins. Good luck to you, and we're always pulling for you.
Thank you. Good to see y'all. Thank y'all very much.
See you, Casey.
If you could give a championship to whoever is the most excited to ever get a head coaching job, I think Casey Chester is probably that guy. I mean, obviously played for your dad there at Pocahontas and just a Pocahontas guy through and through. And I've talked to a lot, done a lot of stories and stuff when new coaches have gotten hired. And I don't know that I've ever talked to somebody that was more enthused. I mean, he just kept talking about everybody. The most common thing is yes, I'm very excited. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. But I mean, it was just with him. I don't know. I could just feel it,
You can, and in the interview also. Yeah. And of course, me and him went to high school together, and I've watched his career and watched him grow. And that community loves him. They love the Redskins. They're going to be big.
Yeah.
And now they've lost cornerback.
That's
we
huge.
talked about that. They got a 250-pound. He's talked about 250-pound running back, and their offensive line's just massive. Yeah. It's like in the interview we were talking about, they line up, they better be able to get a yard.
Yeah.
And talk to me about the Redskins. You got that league is, I think that Pocahontas has kind of always been at the top, or right there in the mix in that league, and Highland's been down a little bit, but. Talk to me about the northeast side. You got Rivercrest and all that bunch too. Blyville.
Look out for Blyville.
Yeah,
that's what I was going to say. Ingram Battles and Tim Brown. Remember those names. Backfield duo. Coach Jett, I love what I talked to him the other day, actually for the first time, just kind of wanted to, introduce myself, new coach and everything, hadn't gotten a chance to reach out to him. And he's got a vision for that program. Mackenzie Pierce, they've always had a really good basketball team for the most part. Mackenzie Pierce has gotten them in the state championship basketball game the last couple of years. And I'm not necessarily saying that they're state title contenders yet in football, but I definitely think that they're going to take a big step forward, just because of what they've been able to do with what those two guys are able to do in the backfield too, so that's going to be a big one. Gosnell, of course, has talked about Cam Williams and some of the athletes that they have there. So yeah, I think the 4A3 definitely is going to be one to really keep an eye on.
And then this one over there, Rivercrest and that, we already talked about them. They're going to mix. And that side of the state, has really come on in football wise as far as making a little bit of runs and playoff runs in the playoffs. And, I'm really looking forward to see what Coach Chester does at Pocahontas. I think he's going to do a great job, and the team's going to embrace him. And I mean, things are just going to keep going like they
Well,
always
that's the thing too. I mean, I'm sure that they embraced him well before, and that's the great. I mean, you guys as coaches know that the challenge of changing a culture is probably one of the bigger ones, especially when you take a job. Well, he doesn't have to do that.
Yeah,
it's already there, so that's already taken care of itself. Yeah, I think he's got a good future there.
Well, let's move over here to the western part of the state. One of my good friends, Coach Jeremy Burns, who has done a phenomenal job at Ozark. Let's bring him on. Coach Burns, how you doing today? How's your vacation been?
Man, doing great. We've had a great summer so far with Hillbillies. We've been to about 3 team camps and had some good experience. Got some young guys coming in, so it's been good for us to be able to get a look at some of those guys on film. Our dead period's been going good. Got some good rest in, and kind of starting to look forward to next week. We start back on Monday, so it's going to be a big week for us next week.
Well, you come off last year, another great season, and you've been probably most consistent guy in 4A for a long time. I was talking to Tom Sears earlier about 3A, and he's been there 26 years. You've been at Ozark for a while, been to the state finals, won numerous conference championships. You've always been a presence in the playoffs. Talk to us a little bit about where your team is coming in and your season coming up and how you feel about it.
Feeling pretty good. We've got to replace some guys. We lost our quarterback and we lost our good running back from last year, but we've got some guys that have been in the program for a while. Kobe Wilbanks coming back. He's going to move from our slot receiver, and he's going to play some free safety as well too, but he'll be our quarterback. He'll just be a junior. I've got a couple of good little running backs that'll be their senior year. It's their turn to step up. Braden Miner and Gavin Gilbreth, and they've looked really good in spring and some of our team camps. So I'm looking forward to those guys. But we're 6 on offense, 7 on defense coming back. So we've got a few guys back with some experience. So it's going to be a good another battle with our conference. Elkins got us last year, and got several teams coming up. Gentry, Gravett, Lincoln. All improving. I've heard some guys. One of our assistants talked to some of those guys, and they've had some guys move in to kind of help them in some spots up there. So you never know what's going to happen, and but looking forward to it. Should be another tough battle in our conference.
Well, it does, and I've actually got to see Gravett, Gentry, and Elkins in some team camps, and they got some really nice players. Talk to us about that league. That league's gotten really tough over the last couple of years. Some really good coaches in there. I think every coach in that league does a very good job. Talk to us about just trying to get out of the league and where y'all fit in the league.
Right. Last year we came in second. Elkins end up winning it, but a lot of growth going on up there. A lot of those teams are growing. You guys were at Pea Ridge, and they went from 2A to 5A in just a matter of a few years. And same thing with Gravett. This is Gravett's last year. They're going to go to 5A, and all that area is growing. We lost Prairie Grove, out of our conference. Farmington out of the conference that we were in up there before. So a lot of growth, a lot of new people moving in up there. So it's going to be a challenge to, kind of come in and battle those numbers and, see where we fit in. We talked in the spring, we're about 45-ish on the team. I think Elkins had about 55. So, numbers wise, it's about, across the board, pretty even there about player wise. So it's just going to see how it works out in the fall.
All right, let's look at the bigger picture, what we're all playing for in the state. And I was talking earlier, we were talking earlier, I think 4A is probably the toughest one to win it in because there's so many good teams and there's so many rounds. And I've watched your teams do it. It gets down to an injury. It gets down to matchup. I know y'all have played people. You're a big physical team, and you might played somebody and lost, and the next week they're limping in and they hadn't survived just because y'all's physicality. Well, talk to us a little bit. You got Malvern out there with a lot of people, and Arkadelphia. You've got Rivercrest has been in the mix. Of course, Pocahontas in the Northeast, and then you and Elkins, Gravett, Gentry. And, then you go south, obviously, with Bo Henry at Warren. He feels like they're going to be in the mix. They always are. Where does the Hillbillies feeling? Where do they come in out in the mix as far as overall state-wise, you think? Where do you fit?
Yeah, I think we'll be in, the top half of it. I've been looking at it kind of over a dead period here, and besides our conference, like you said, Warren, Malvern, Harding Academy, and that kind of bunch. Got several coming back. I know Warren is supposed to have a new little 9th grade quarterback that's supposed to be pretty good. I was reading some articles on him. McGee lost a bunch. They talk about Star City, Monticello, coming around. Stuttgart, you were talking about, Price's teams. We had a big battle with them a couple of years ago, and he got kind of beat up. But we end up losing by, kickoff return and that kind of deal. But, that conference is tough, year in, year out. So you got the 7, Arkadelphia, Malvern, Nashville. Malvern had the big win last year. Coach Plumley, I really like him. Arkadelphia is always loaded with talent, and Nashville is the same. Rivercrest, you mentioned him. They got a lot of returning. I noticed, this year, so they should have a bunch coming back. Gosnell, Pocahontas, your hometown, got some good numbers. It was saying so. And then Highland, we've had battles with all those guys. Gosnell, Pocahontas, Highland started a bunch of 18 sophomores. I noticed last year, so they should be improved as well. Then 4A, I got some new teams that we used to be in that with Bauxite coming back with a lot of good players. You got I think it's the Wimberley kid. He's got
he's a big time player.
Yeah, so Coach Arnold down there, he's been kind of telling me how good he is, and then I got Haskell, Harmony Grove, and Lamar and Pottsville. They're going to give you some different looks. So offensive wise, at some of these teams, more physical and that kind of stuff. So it just kind of goes from more spread stuff to more physical, 3 yards, I guess you'd say, and then it just kind of sees how some of these teams adjust. We've had some luck being more physical, I'd say, sometimes against a more talented team, and being able to control the ball and keep getting first downs. So we've had some luck the last. I've been doing it. This is my 13th year as head coach. So we've had some luck in the playoffs to get some deep runs, and hopefully we'll get another one this year.
Well, let me leave you with this, and you've got the experience and been there, and you've been in the finals. You've had long runs. Talk to people, like in 7A, 6A, everybody kind of runs the same stuff. Their defense might be a little bit different, but, everybody's kind of running, some type of spread or 20 personnel, those types of. In your league, it's so difficult because you're about to have spread one week, and then you're turning around and playing, wing tee, smash mouth football, and then, turn around, you're playing 2 tights and then the empty team. Talk to us a little bit, because I think that's what makes the classification so tough, is the variations of things you see.
You go from 16 teams to, 48 teams, 32 in 5A. So you got more to kind of pick from. So like you said, those 7A teams, you may have 150 kids to pick from, or 200. And, as you drop down in classifications, you get lower and lower in numbers. And you just kind of have to, if you stay in one spot for very long, you just kind of have to deal with the talent you have coming through and kind of fit it best to what you can do. Sometimes we're able to throw it a little bit more. Sometimes, we got to run it a little bit more, or spread them out and do different things up front. I've had one year we had all 5 linemen get hurt. When we made it to the semifinals, got beat by Robinson. I think we had 10 starters out that year. By the time we got finished playing that year. So you just kind of scrap around and see what you got left as you get, you got 5 playoff games. So it's a long season, and you just got to try to, and that's one thing I've kind of adjusted is, you lift weights throughout the whole season to keep them healthy. And then practice wise, it's not like the old days, like, somebody was talking in town the other day, hey, you having 2-a-days? Well, we can't have 2-a-days anymore. You don't have 2-3 hour practices a day in Alma. Like we growing up, Coach Vines there, we practice in the morning in the dew and then the heat in the afternoon. So we don't have that anymore. So, but luckily we get to practice with them for the most part. We share a lot of athletes with baseball and basketball, but for the most part, we get them in the spring, and then we share it in the summertime here. So we get most of our stuff in, and we're able to keep them in shape and keep them healthy as we go through the season.
Well, good deal. Coach, we'll have you on. I know you've got a couple of top 10 games of the week, especially a couple ones early. We'll have you on during the week and look forward to watching your teams play. One thing about the Jeremy Burns and the Ozark Hillbillies are always in the mix and are always there. Thank you for coming on. We'll have you on later on in the year.
All right, Coach Williams, appreciate you, man. Y'all have a good one.
All right, see you, Coach. After listening to Coach Burns, Elkins, Gravitz starting to talk up here a little bit.
Yeah.
That league, Gentry, getting very competitive type league. Talk to me about, just to Coach Burns about the Ozark Hillbillies.
Well, one thing I know about Jeremy Burns, you're probably going to have a pretty big offensive line. You're going to be able to run the football. Now, Eli Massengale, Landon Wright, those are big losses for the Hillbillies. Love that mascot. Love their logo and everything. But yeah, that's the thing is you always know that they were in the state championship or finals or semifinals at least, was it 2019 right before the COVID year. So, had some recent success in the biggest game on the biggest stage. So that's just another one that you look at, kind of like I was talking about with Glen Rose and some of those in 3A. That's always going to be one that you certainly feel like they're going to be in the postseason. It's all about getting there.
Here's the thing about Ozark. People don't see it if you're really not paying attention. Watch who they play in the playoffs. If they lose, that team usually stumbles in because they're beat up physically.
Absolutely.
And I've seen it. I know Stuttgart did that. They played Stuttgart a couple of years ago, and Coach Price, they come limping up here to Shiloh, and just lost a lot of guys. You better pay attention to them. You don't want to play them because you might beat them, but you might win the battle, but you might not win the war.
That's right. You're gonna be bruised up.
And let's get on Elkins. And we've talked about a lot of their players earlier. I think Coach Watson's building something up there.
I loved him last year, and I love him going into this season. I mean, that game last year with Nashville, it's about the best way that you can think to win a game, the worst way to lose it. And there came out with some statistics, and I mean, it was crazy. It was like, I think that Nashville had like a 0.8% chance to win that game or something like that, just based on everything. But that could have gone either way, and it just didn't bounce Elkins' way. And I think that's probably, not to say that they're thinking about last season, but I definitely think that you'd be crazy to think that kind of fuel is not going to be something that they use going into this year.
I agree with it. And anytime you get in the playoffs, you play teams like Nashville in a game like that, you know what to expect.
Yeah.
And everything. Well, we can't leave 4A without talking about Bo Henry and the Lumberjacks. I mean, the Lumberjacks, which Bo's always confident.
Sure.
But, he's always confident, but he has a reason to be confident.
He can back it up.
He has dominated that conference. I mean, dominated it.
Yeah.
Is there anybody that could push them?
Last year, Star City was the first one. That was a great football game. They did that on Thursday. And, Bob White, a great friend of mine, great mentor, and Wes Moore did a great job calling that one on for Fearless Friday. But that was, I think it actually went into overtime, came down to the wire, but I don't know that anybody's, and Coach Vereen's done a great job down there and everything, but I just right now, just now that we're still in talking season, I mean, how many consistent 4A?
You know what? It's funny, and is you say that, and I might be way off. The last team I think I remember them losing to in the conference was Crossett.
Let's say I think Star City beat them actually Star City, I think the last time they beat them was like 2010 or 2011.
Yeah.
But Crossett would probably be the most recent one. And that's another one. Coach Newton's first year there last season and struggled through about the first 6-7 weeks and then won 3 of their last 4. So what is Crossett going to do? Historically, pretty good. I'd say over the last half decade, one of the top 10 teams in Class 4A easily. So that's one too. But I would say if there's anybody on paper right now, probably Star City.
Yeah. And Coach Vereen, who Hot Springs and Chris does a great job, and he's hard nosed, and his teams are hard nosed, and but the Lumberjacks are always in the mix, and you can't do it.
Yeah.
Mouth, you got into 4A here.
Man,
and I know you on your Hardy Academy and all that deal,
but when we get right down to 4A, right down to the nitty gritty, I'm been sold on for years, the Warren Lumberjacks. I mean, how can you not be confident if you're Bo Embry with the athletes he's rolled out of it? I mean, he's going to war with a howitzer. Everybody else has a 22.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing about Bo is his non-conference schedule. You look over I was at Southside when we played them, and
he's not scared.
No, he's played Fayetteville. He loads it up early, so and you'll call him, and he'll have a couple banged up, week 2 or 3, but he'll get them healthy. But he gets his teams prepared for that late run.
It sure does, and you can guarantee they're going to be playing on Thanksgiving weekend.
Absolutely. Well, what I was referring to earlier, I talked about just the thrashing that we took, and it was Jarius Wright at quarterback, Chris Gregg and Greg Childs at defensive end. They also had another one in that class named Basman Jones that was committed to Arkansas, never made it there. But I think that was the only time ever in any sport that I just wanted to go home. I was like, okay, we got killed. It's 42-0 at half. I remember DJ Williams is his senior year. And he stood up and we're down 42-0 at halftime. And God bless his heart, he tried to get us motivated. We're like, dude, this is over. It's been a good run. It's been a great run, but it's gone, brother. Go be a hog and win the Mackey.
Well, there's some interesting matchups, and we'll get through that during the year. But the 4A, I just get excited about it because it's just great football.
Yeah.
Let's transition over to 5A. Mr. Cook, that'd be where you come in. We'll have J.R. Eldridge on here in a little bit from Farmington. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about your league. Shiloh's got a coaching change. J.R.'s building a program where he's at. You're in your 3rd year. You feel like, you're all right there in the mix also. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of great teams. Of course, Shiloh Christian coming off being state runners-up with a new coach.
Yep.
Talk to me a little bit about your league.
Man, it's a tough one. Week in and week out, you look at, obviously, like you said, Eldridge and Farmington and Shiloh, those trains are going to keep rolling. And obviously Shiloh's got that new head coach, but, man, they got some good players top to bottom. Great assistants over there and a great foundation that Conaway left for them. So they're going to keep rolling. Farmington, Eldridge has done a great job at getting that program fired up, and those kids are excited about it. That community is as well. You look at Harrison.
And that's right.
And Harrison, it's a little bit removed from this Northwest Arkansas area, but they are talented, well coached, and that program is just rolling. And then you look at Alma and Rusty Bush and what they got down there at Alma, and that's
which I'm gonna stop you.
Yeah.
Alma, because I saw them live, didn't make the playoffs last year, and it was kind of a crying shame.
Yeah.
Because I think they had a good football team. I think they had a good football team. Yeah. It's hard. I mean, that's how tough the league is.
It is. And then you look at Prairie Grove, had a heck of a run last year, and obviously, he knows what he's doing, Absher over there, and
he's been the longest tenured coach at one school.
He's done it a few years.
Exactly. And so the programs here, and you talked about Clarksville and Dardanelle jumping in. I know next year they'll be out. Top to bottom, it is a tough conference.
And Shiloh's going to have a freshman quarterback.
I know. And talking to some of their staff, they feel pretty good about everything.
Yeah. Oh, he's a
and they feel good about their quarterback. He's just young.
Well, it was just crazy because Eli Wisdom, outstanding career, graduates. Garrett Odom obviously goes with his dad to Las Vegas, and then they had another quarterback that transferred over to Gentry. Talon Williams I think he's going to be a stud too. And now they've got a freshman, so that's it's pretty crazy to see.
You brought up Odom. Nothing's better when you're opposing coach and a coach takes the job and they got kids. A great story on that is when Houston Nutt left and went to Ole Miss with Brandon Allen and Austin. And I remember calling Daryl Patton going, "Hey, congratulations on your quarterback." And he goes, "We're working on that."
Well, during the state championship game when they lost to Parkview, I was joking with some of the guys up in the radio booth, and this was right around the time that it was speculated that Barry was going to take the UNLV job. I said, well, guys, I've got Garrett Odom like 5 feet away from you. You want me to ask him real quick? And, obviously not going to take that kind of chance.
Right. Well, let's bring him in right now. The head Cardinal from head coach at Farmington, J.R. Eldridge. How was your summer, Coach?
It's going good, busy. Really excited about getting this season going.
Well, it's not been too hot out there.
Well, I hear we're going to get cooler temperatures this week, though.
Yeah, I think it's going to cool down. Well, let's get into it real quick. Last year you come into Farmington. Your track record speaks for itself. I mean, you've been a successful coach wherever you've worked at, and your championships. You came in, really changed the mindset, and boy, it really had a pretty good year. Lost your quarterback early, had to overcome tons of injuries, and boom, looks like you're heading in the right direction. Then boom, in the first round up at Valley View, you got to make that trip all the way across state and come up short by 1 point, and I know that sets you in your crawl for a while. Well, talk to me about, you got your quarterback back this year. Talk to me about your team this year.
Yeah, I'm really excited about having our quarterback back. He was able to play in those last 2 games, and he really, better than any player that I've ever coached or had, he really tried to prepare himself to step right back in. When we were able to get him back. It was really amazing to see, him and his character doing that, but we really missed him, and he wasn't, he wasn't exactly the same once he got back, obviously going through that injury, but that's the past, and I wish it would have ended differently last season, but we're excited about this season. We've got him back. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the state, in my opinion. We've also got we had a sophomore running back last year that had 16 touchdowns for us. Really good football player that I think he's going to have another great season. Russell Hodge, and then we've got another rising junior, Luke Elsick, who'll play some slot, also played some running back for us, really versatile in the backfield and at wide receiver. We've got 2 other really good receivers, Jagger Gordon and Hunter Reeves offensively, and some sophomores that I feel like are going to contribute on the offensive line. I should have talked about them first, but we got one guy that's coming back that he absolutely loves football. He was our center my first year, his sophomore year, played guard for us last season, or played center for us last season as well, and he'll be playing guard for us this year. So really excited about Hunter Marshall on the offensive line, just as a returning starter. We've got a guy that moved over to our offensive line from our defensive line that will be able to that's going to be really kind of better suited as an offensive lineman. So offensively, I feel good about our weapons or guys that are going to contribute offensively, and just Cam being able to distribute the ball to them. Defensively, we lost a lot. We've had a defensive lineman that he'll be playing at Northeastern State University next year. We got a linebacker that's playing for Todd Cooley at Delta State next year. We've got a safety that really we felt the loss of our quarterback when we lost him because of Cam's injury. He played quarterback for us, but he was our quarterback in the secondary. But we've got a lot of replacing to do. But Jacob Johnson coming back on the defensive line, Morgan Shader coming back at linebacker, and then we've got Charlie Mobley, Joey Richards in the secondary that I feel like really going to provide us some good help defensively.
Well, Coach Moreland's going to get them to play hard. And, I've never watched the J.R. Eldridge team not play hard either. So, a lot of defensively, if you can get them to play hard, that's a big part of it. Let's move on to your conference. I mean, Shiloh's kind of dominated. They're still right there at the top. Obviously had a coaching change, but, they've lost some guys, but they're still going to be Shiloh. Prairie Grove was a very interesting team last year, bumping up from 4A to 5A. They got in. Harrison's been a staple in that conference forever. Alma, had a pretty good team last year, missed the playoffs. You got P Ridge, they're going to be better. You look at, your league is a tough league, and you're in the mix, obviously. You got a crystal ball. What do you see how everything's playing out?
I've never really been. Hootens used to get mad at me because I wouldn't predict. They'd call me every summer and ask me, JR, why don't you predict who's going to be top of the conference, bottom of the conference? And I'm sitting there going, well, I'm more concerned about Farmington, and I just about us every week, but we've got a really, really good conference. I mean, Harrison, and there's good coaches in our conference too, and that's, it's one thing to have a good team, have good athletes, really good coaches. I mean, Coach Absher, man, he can call the wing tee big time. That's an advantage that he's able to create, year in and year out, does a great job calling plays. Harrison, Shiloh, Prairie Grove, all the way down the line, Alma, P Ridge. We've just got a good conference. And so we've just got to be prepared every single week. We've got to decide that we're going to make football more important than things that can keep us from playing the longest, and really honing in on game plans and being able to stay focused. But what I do love about our conference, and I feel like this has been my story everywhere I've been, whether it's Arkadelphia, North Little Rock, or Farmington, I feel like when you play in a competitive conference, you're really able to get prepared for the playoffs. And so I think that's an advantage that our conference does have.
Well, there's no doubt. Let's go landscape. And I know you don't like to make predictions, and I understand it. I was the same way because you don't control what you can control, obviously. But let's go overall state-wise. I mean, you've been a state champion. You know what it takes to get there. You know what it takes to win it. Let's just be honest. If you go ask a regular guy on the street about 5A right now, so probably Parkview's up there, and everybody else is kind of behind them. Just so talented. Them winning the state championship last year. Obviously, Robinson, you guys up here, Shiloh in the mix. You go in the East, win when you don't know, their situation. They've been dominant. Batesville's had good teams, and then Magnolia. The 5A is a very, very tough conference. I mean, classification, and it's deep. And so talk to us a little bit about just overall state-wise.
Yeah, I really think you hit the nail on the head as far as very, very deep classification. I feel like 5A kind of is the new 4A. 4A used to kind of be like that. Now you've got the Robinsons, the Shilohs, everybody moving up into the 5A. The conference we used to play in at Arkadelphia, it's not as good as it used to be because it's different. You don't have Robinson in that conference. And so, I think that obviously Parkview, they're going to have athletes. Really good football players. Robinson, good football players. And I think that one of the key factors to me, what I try to stress to our team is who really wants to play the longest. Yeah. Who really is going to decide that they want to skip out on Thanksgiving with their family going somewhere out of town or something like that, and I think that's got to, it begins with a mentality, and for us, we're trying to create that mentality to where, we want to keep playing football. There's so many other things to do these days that are so much easier than running into each other for 2 hours. And I think that to play a 14-week season for us at Arkadelphia, it was 15-week season. North Little Rock, I think it was 14-week season. But I think that's kind of one of the biggest keys is teaching your players how to navigate long seasons, and hopefully you're able to experience it. Once we get going when we get into playoffs, are we going to have that same energy that we had week one? And so I think that's a big deal for everybody, really, because there's so much parity, I feel like, and there was in 4A. Now there's going to be in 5A the same way. So really, a lot of it may come down to a mentality. Obviously, you've got to have players, and you've got to have players that really want to do that, but it will come down to a mentality.
Well, there's no doubt. I mean, you've had that conversation many times. The group that wants to come to practice week 13, 14, and want to still get better and still want to practice go a long ways. Well, Coach, we'll get you off here, and we'll have you on during the year. You got a lot of you'll be in a lot of our top 10 games of the week. You got a lot of big games this year. Hey, good luck to you and the Cardinals. We're always rooting for you. We'll have you on soon, and talk to you later.
All right, appreciate it, Coach.
Well, let's move on here. Let's go to the defending state champions, and we're going to bring him on here right now, Coach Brad Bolding. Coach, let's get into it right off the bat. I mean, talk about your season. Let's recap from last year, and I know you've moved on. Everybody else has moved on, but let's refresh everybody's memory. Unless you're in a coffin somewhere, you don't know what's going on. How's it feel? I mean, for a guy that me and you talked before the season last year, I don't know how many semifinals you've been to. I mean, like 12 or something like that. I don't even have a clue, a bunch. And break out to get to that final game and to win it. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, it was special. As you know, you've been there. It's a process, and man, a lot of things. The stars have got to line up, and I mean, you got to have some luck. You got to stay in as close to having as least amount of injuries as you can have. And man, a lot of that stuff happened for us. I mean, we had some bumps and bruises early on. I mean, crap, we had Harbor and Bryant and North Little Rock right out of the gate. So I mean, we were really testing our players, from the get-go, and they responded well. I mean, it was obviously a great Bryant team, and just had an unbelievable amount of talent. I thought our kids played well. We made some mistakes, and against teams like that, they take advantage of that. And so, we didn't come out on top on either that game or the North Little Rock game. But it was a lot of things that we learned from those games that really helped us when we got into conference. And we just settled down. Our kids just started playing after that Bryant game. I mean, it was, I guess we reeled off 10 or 11 in a row there, 11 in a row, and we're able to win it. But it was an amazing year. And, have your brother there doing it, your dad being there on the sideline, I think you can appreciate that. I mean, all those things were just really made it really special.
Made it wonderful and special, no doubt about it. Well, let's get into this year's team. And I'll just throw it out there. You have to talk to a bunch of 5A coaches, and then the word on the street is Parkview's up here, but you got a new team, and you got, some people battling you. I think 5A is probably as deep as it could be than any other classification from top to bottom, up and down. Talk to me a little bit about your team in the mindset of, hey, there's difference in, chasing it, and now you're being chased. What's your process as a coach? Then talk a little bit about your team offensively and defensively.
Well, I think I'll go back to Bobby. I don't mind throwing him back out there again, just because of the fact he's been there more than once. And this is my first rodeo at winning the state championship. And, after the crowds are gone, everything's just back to playing football again. You got to get ready for the next season, and you got to get off your little high horse and start getting back to grinding it out. And, those are the things that I thought we did really good job of, riding off season to get back into the normalcy of playing the game. And, what it entails after you win one. You go to all these different places and do all these different things, and it takes up a lot of time. So I thought we were able to settle them down in off season and really get back to what got us there. And that was just spending a lot of time on weights, speed training, excuse me. And, just the flexibility of, the stuff that we do with our hips, and just speed and quickness and all those different things that we do. I think that we do a good job of developing kids. And so we had a really good group of sophomores last year that are coming back. We had a core group of juniors like Eric McGee, who was our quarterback, who I think is going to, he was MVP in the state championship game, had an outstanding game, just committed to UCA the other day. So, I mean, we're really excited. He's had a good fall camp. And then Settle's kid, I'm going to forget some kids because there's quite a few, but Jaden Ashford's another kid at tailback. We had a kid that moved in back to Little Rock from Dallas this year. His name's Daquan Coleman, and he's going to be a really good player too. Obviously, Marion Robinson's a kid that, he's on everybody's radar all over the country. He's a great player. He's a safety for us, but, we'll bring him in and put him on offense, throw some balls to him. He can play quarterback. He's kind of a do-all guy. He punts for us. And of course, Alex Martin's a kid that just committed to ASU. He's kind of our staple kid on the offensive line that's coming back and plays defensive line as well. Cash Williams, Landon Kennedy. It's a group of really good senior group of players, and that really good group, that sophomore class is going to be juniors. It's really complements. They complement each other really well. And I thought our 9th grade group that's coming in as sophomores, they lost one game last year to Bryant. And I think that's a talented group as well. So it'll be good to see them kind of mix in with those upperclassmen.
Well, let's get a little bit into your league a little bit. It's a tough conference that you're in. Talk to us. Obviously y'all are picked first, and those things. Which, at the end of the day, it's what you got coming back. That's why you get ranked, and you got to go do it on the field. Talk to me about your conference and how tough it is week in, week out in your conference.
Man, I tell you what, these guys in the South have done a really good job. I mean, they do a really good job of coaching their players. We went to Magnolia this year, and they run a unique offense, and it's kind of like preparing for Cabot back in the days when I was at North Little Rock. It wasn't a week you really looked forward to. So those that I thought Magnolia has a really good team. I think they do a really good job. I think they're a team to watch out for. Obviously, Camden, they made it to either the semifinals or the quarterfinals. I think they beat Valley View and then got beat by Shiloh in the semis. But Nick, who I worked with, he was Scott Reed, worked for him at El Dorado, is an outstanding coach and has done a heck of a job at Camden. And I think Texarkana is I've just heard through the grapevine this summer is one of those teams that keep an eye on. They were not very good last year, but they were very well coached. Their kids played really hard, and I was impressed with them. I thought that they were going to be good here in the next couple of years. But our conference is a tough conference. You got to be ready to play each week. And like I said, I give a lot of kudos to the coaches because they just do a really good job of coaching. And in some of these schools, the talent level may not be, a little bit smaller school in the 5A realm for us. I'm telling you, those kids are very well coached and very disciplined, and been very impressed. And I've been in a lot of conferences around Arkansas.
Yeah, and you just name, Nick, Mark, and a lot of those guys. They do an outstanding job. Let's go overall landscape of the state. Obviously, y'all are the favorite, but you're sitting there and you got Robinson, you got but y'all had a tough game with them in the semifinals. Shiloh, you mentioned Camden Fairview. You've heard a lot of great things about them. You look in the East, Clay Toddy going to win. Batesville's always been very, very good over there in that league. And I heard Nettleton's going to have an outstanding team. Then you get over to the West with Farmington, Harrison. They've all been there. Talk to me the landscape and your approach. You had a crystal ball. Where do you see kind of some things maybe laying out? I mean, it's just so deep in the 5A right now. As J.R. Eldridge made a point earlier I thought was huge was, he was in Arkadelphia for years in that conference and how tough it was. He said, looks like 4A's just moved up to 5A now. Kind of talk about overall in the state.
That's a good point. Well, obviously, sitting at the top, I don't know about that. People have rated us there. We'll see what happens. I think that's one of those things. Obviously, winning it last year helped us, and having some kids coming back. But I don't look at that crap, and I don't. Sorry, but I just don't get too caught up in all that early on. And man, I just try to keep our kids away from looking at it and reading about how great they're going to be, and really focus on how good we can get each day in practice. But I think Shiloh, I know that coach is from there. He's been there. He's did a great job in Oklahoma. And so I expect them to be back doing well again. I've heard the same thing that you've heard about Nettleton. I think Valley View will be a very good team this year. Nick and them, and we've team camp with them. He's got all of his offensive line back. I thought his quarterback looked really well. So I think Camden will be one that'll be tough this year for everybody. And I really, man, I think Coach Burnett and those guys at Hot Springs, I mentioned them earlier, but they do a heck of a job. They played our tails off. The first half last year, I mean, we were nervous going in at halftime because they just played our tails off. So they've done well this summer at 7-on-7 and team camps. And so I think they'll be a good team. And obviously Robinson, they have that tradition. But I tell you, the two that are kind of scary in the Central is Mills and Pine Bluff. We played with the Mills and 7-on-7 up in Fayetteville this year, and very athletic, very talented group of guys, played together well. And then we team camped with Pine Bluff, and I thought they're going to be a tough team in the Central.
I keep hearing that. We've interviewed a bunch of guys, and Pine Bluff keeps kind of coming up. I had a down year last year, but they got tradition over there's no doubt. Well, Coach, we appreciate having you on. We're going to have you on a lot during the year, obviously. And hey, good luck to you, and we'll see you down the road.
Yeah, Bray, appreciate you guys doing what you're doing, man. This is an awesome deal, and I tell everybody in Central Arkansas about it.
Well, we appreciate that. We're having a lot of fun doing it, and it's just fun to get to talk to guys like you, coaches, and the excitement around high school football and just football in general. Well, Coach, good luck to you, and we'll see you down the road.
Thank you, fellas. Have a good one.
This team's stacked.
Yeah.
The bottom line, and you can put them, measure them up, 7A, 6A, whatever.
Yeah.
They're stacked.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, talking to Coach Bowden, they've got a lot of great players. We're going to have them ranked really high overall when we do our rankings, and talk to us about the Parkview Patriots. And they're in a tough league, but can anybody even? I mean,
well, that's South Conference. When you look at Camden Fairview,
great coaches.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, Camden Fairview is going to be the first one. That's who it came down to, was those two teams.
I like Nick Vaughn's team.
Nick Vaughn's.
I like Nick Vaughn's team.
He was DC before Bobby, there. Yeah. So, but the thing about it was, Brad Bolding, he had not won a state championship before last year, but you look at North Little Rock. I mean, so when I remember him when he was back at Mayflower, we were 9-0, and then I found out, the legend of Buzz and Bobby and all that. Well, the thing is Brad, whether he was at North Little Rock, whether he was at Park, I mean, he still had both of those teams in the mix. I mean, he had those long, multiple years of going to the semifinals with North Little Rock. He just really needed to get over that hump. And, bringing Bobby, I talked earlier on the segment about how Mark Kelly's probably the best offensive mind in the state. I think Bobby Bolding is probably the best defensive mind in the state, and bringing him on there, and with his success, not only one of the best defensive minds in the state, or maybe the best, one of the best head coaches in the history of the state. So bringing him on there was obviously a big boost. But when you just add, I mean, Parkview, like you said, they're stacked every single year. They've got Division I, Power 5 prospect after Power 5 prospect. I mean, they were definitely due. The Little Rock School District was definitely due, having not won one in almost 20 years. So, that was a good year for Parkview just to finally get over the hump. I think that was their first one. And of course, they got upset by Southside in 83 with Keith Jackson, and then they won it in 78, 79. So it's been almost half a century before they had won a state championship.
And you brought up Bobby coming on. What a cool story, two brothers and their dad, Buzz, and they've grown up in it. And I tell you what, Bobby Bowden's had time of his life.
They loved it. I mean, they love it.
Yeah.
So
he goes, man, I'm getting to coach ball every day. I ain't worried about this and that. And you nailed it. Bobby Bowden is one of the best defensive minds in the round.
Bobby joked. The only reason why I got a scoop on that he was going to Parkview last year was because our photographer happened to go take some pictures of a practice, and he sent it to me. So I call him up, and I'm just doing an interview with him, and he said, I was so happy that I'm not going to have to do media interviews. And here I am talking to you. And then Fox 16, Nick Walters does something on him, and KTV's out there. And I'm like, I told him, I said, Bobby, you just wait. Your summer's going to be busy with that.
Yeah. Bob doesn't like spotlight too much, a little bit. But let's talk this. Let's talk about a team we played when we were at Pea Ridge, just moved out of your conference, Morrilton. Yeah. Cody McNabb is one of the best around. Yeah. And so, state championship coach. Let's bring Cody on right now and talk about his ball club.
Well, Coach, we got you on here. Morrilton, how many years have you been there now?
This will be year 14.
You've been there a while. You've established that program. You've been at the top, state championships. You've been in, you're in the semifinals, Thanksgiving every year. And, last year, just like any other school, why is the biggest problem you had? You ran into Parkview in the first round playoffs.
Well, no doubt. And we were happy to be there because we had some tough losses during the season. And then we were fired up. We needed, we drew the bye week 10, which is not necessarily ideal maybe, but, so we were waiting to see if, Robinson beat Pine Bluff to get in. Robinson had to beat Pine Bluff, and Pine Bluff played really well that night. And, but luckily, Robinson got them. So we got Parkview, and, we're fired up to be in, and really, had we stayed away from a turnover late in that first half, it would have been a much closer game. But man, they were a really good football team, and we've seen them in team camp some, and they're a really good football team again. So just one of those things. But I thought our kids played hard late in the year, and Brad and had that group rolling, and it looks like he's going to be good for several years to come.
Well, he obviously they're going to be really good this year. Talk to us about your team this year.
Yeah, we lost some really good seniors, and I think every coach says that. It's just every year's different. You figure out what you can do, and I've got a really good staff that we've been together for quite a while now, and really lean on those guys, and they do a great job of figuring out what our kids do the best and put them in situations to be successful. And that's what we're going to have to do this year. We're, losing some key spots. We bring back a tailback that was a really good player last year. And but lose a lot of guys up front on offense, lose our quarterback and several receivers. But I'm excited about some young guys that we've got coming in to replace them. And so that's our task, is just and what's been fun about this team is I wake up every morning and I know that I'm going to see the team get better every day. And I think that's when you got a younger team, that part's kind of fun. You're figuring out things that they can do. And it seems like every day we're after practice watching film but like, hey, this guy showed up today, and hey, this guy, I think he can do this. So fitting those pieces together is going to be our challenge as a staff. But really like the young kids that we have. They've really came up. They had a really good year in junior high, and have really brought some competitiveness to the football team, and that comes with talent and guys having to fight every day in practice to get playing time. So that part's been a lot of fun so far.
Well, you hit it. When you got a young team, is nothing's better than watching week 8. Just see where they.
Oh, no doubt. And I've said that to our team is, hey, we're going to be a much better team week 7, 8, 9 than we are 1, 2, 3, and it's just. It's probably the overused term in coaching right now, but you want them to be aware of the process.
Yes.
Just be better when we call it up than you were when we warmed up. And if we can keep doing that, I really like where this team's going to go.
Well, let's talk about your conference a little bit. I mean, we talked to Kyle Sutherland from Scorebook Live, and your conference really wasn't a dominant conference in 5A last year. It was kind of I might want to call it it just wasn't as competitive as some of the other leagues. Where do you fit? What's your league look like? Was it young last year, or is it going to be better?
I think the thing last year was, we had Robinson. That was a really good football team, and they got beaten in the semis by Parkview. So they were really good. They were kind of the class of the league. And then what I really thought was everybody else was so, we got in one of those weird tiebreaker scenarios that we just beat the right person at the right time and had the right number of points in our wins. And when you get into that, it seemed like there's a lot of parity in that league where you could, there was a lot of us kind of in the middle, and which makes for a lot of fun when you can't roll out there. There wasn't, Chapel, I think, finished at the bottom, but you know how Moody is. He guys ready to roll, and so you had to play hard every week and get up for every week. And I think it's going to be a lot the same this year. I still think Robinson, until somebody knocks them off, they got some really talented kids, but I think, so they'll be very competitive on a state level for sure. And then I think you gotta look at Pine Bluff. I think those guys with some of the talent, he was just kind of getting it going last year, but I just keep hearing about, I don't follow recruiting really very much at all, but I hear people tell me, hey, this guy got a whatever offer. And so it sounds like he's getting some kids, and then they added they consolidated with Dollarway. That'll probably give them a few more players. So that'll be interesting. And then, I think everybody else will fight it out. Mills, I think they seem to be ranked pretty high, and they've got the one of the best recruits in the state coming back. And I thought their quarterback was outstanding last year. So Cortez is going to have some good players. So I think a lot of talent in the league. I'll go. Whitehall is a team that you got no clue about. Your heart goes out to that bunch with losing their head football coach, and a few months earlier they lost a player, that had just graduated or was about to graduate. And I think if you're in coaching long enough, a lot of us have experienced that. That's a tough deal. So, you think about that group and hope that they'll bounce back. I'm sure they've got good leadership and are going to do that, but that's a tough deal. And then Moppin at Maumelle looks like he's getting some talent. We saw them in team camp, so they're going to be good. He's a guy that attracts people and gets people to play hard. Certainly looks like. Valonia will be different. I think they won't have the quarterback. He's had a run of quarterbacks for 5 or 6 years since he's been there, that he's been able to run that system really well. So I'm kind of excited, kind of anxious to see what he's going to do. And then and BB, we play them in junior high, and that I think it's this group of seniors, maybe juniors, I don't remember, but was a group that won the junior high league. That's a tough league with Little Rock Christian and Searcy and Greenbrier, some 6A teams in it. So I think there's a lot of parity. It's going to be a fight for the playoffs, but it'll be a league that I think if you do get in, you're going to be ready for. You're going to see really good coaching. You're going to see really good athletes. So I feel like, getting through the league, you're going to be ready for whatever you see in the playoffs.
Well, and that's true. Let's go overall state-wise. Obviously you got Parkview, defending state champions. Everybody knows they're loaded to bear again. You mentioned Robinson, Shiloh Christian, I mean, a lot of these, and then you get down, down south, Magnolias, and I think Nick Vaughn's got a good football team at Camden Fairview. I actually saw some tape on those guys at a team camp. I think they got. Where do you guys? I know you're a little young, but you're always in the mix. And where do you fit overall? Is everybody targeting at Parkview, which usually people do after defending state champions, or where's the Morrilton Devil Dogs fit in this Ram in 5A?
Well, I think, I think the big picture. I think if you're looking statewide, there's, it's Parkview, and you better knock them off. They're going to play physical. They're going to have guys that are hard to tackle. Brad's going to have them playing hard. Bobby's going to have them sound on defense. So I think that one, until somebody gets them, is the one everybody's looking at. And you got, I think out of the West, or it was last year, Shiloh was the team to beat. I know Bray could speak to that a whole lot better than I could, and you're kind of up there in the area, but they're going through a coaching change. Yeah. You never know what that's going to do. And it seemed like with Coach Odom leaving, that might have hurt some of their players, but I think that, and you got JR, and Harrison's always good in that league, going to be very, very solid, very sound. And I think, like you said, the Parkview, seeing them in the South, and those South teams are going to be able to test themselves against them. So I thought they had some good teams coming. I don't know much about the East, and I'm probably a bad guest from that standpoint, in that I'm very narrow-minded this time of year, and focusing on, hey, we got to get better for Russellville. But win is always good out there.
And Cody, that's a crazy deal with them a little bit, with the tornado situation, Clay Toddy coming in, and, they've been pretty dominant over there. Of course, Dave King's gotten out, which, at Batesville, he got out 2 years ago, or, last year's first year out, but, they've been dominant. I keep hearing Nettleton's going to have a great football team up there. So there's Valley View, Cockrell does a great job. So really, I think 5A is really jumped up. I mean, the competition with the new cycle, which, those things change, is really, really competitive and really hard.
And let's be honest, the fact that the two private schools moved up has kind of opened things up. And, that they had such a stranglehold on that thing for probably 10 years. I don't know what the stats are, but it has opened it up, and Parkview slid in there and kind of made the favorite. But you could see a talented Robinson team, if they're healthy, giving them a run.
Yeah.
There's a lot of to me, I think you're right. I think it's really good football. I think 5A has been Morrilton's been a great fit for me and my family. And, but I think 5A is just that. Who was I? I guess Buck and I were talking the other day at our a junior high team camp, and we were talking. I was just you get around Buck, you're going to quiz him about what, and we were talking. He was talking about Camden and all that, and and he made a point that 5A is a really good mix. You're small enough where you got your hands on everything. The 7th grade and junior high coaches are all right there in your office. You don't have to drive across town to watch them practice, or if they have a question of, hey, how should we fit the power? They just walk into my office and ask it. They don't have, so I think it's a lot of fun. It's still, the communities are small enough. It's a lot of fun to go to 5A games, well attended. Everybody's excited. I thought we've been in the West so long. It was kind of kind of neat for me being a guy that grew up in Arkansas to play the Zebras at Pine Bluff.
Oh, what
Jordan Stadium, baby.
Ain't nothing like it.
I mean, it was so playing in some different places has been a lot of fun. But I do think it's Parkview, but there's a lot of really good 5A teams and a lot of really good coaches in 5A that make it very competitive and a lot of fun to coach every Friday night.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you having coming on. We're gonna have you on. I got a great feeling that the Morrilton Russellville game will be a top 10 game of the week this year. So we'll probably have you and Coach Wheeler on week 0 and get that all stirred up a little bit. But hey, good luck to you and appreciate you coming on.
No, thanks for having me. This is a neat deal that you're doing. Anything we can do to promote this game that we all love so much, I'd be glad to join you anytime. Thanks for having me.
All right, see you, Cody.
Have a good one.
Listening to the interview, he feels like they're going to be better. He told me, they were going to have a little bit down years for what, it's not down.
Well, they got the luck of the draw with Parkview in the first round last year.
Yes, so. and he they feel like they got them coming.
Yeah.
Cody McNabb does as good a job. He's a great defensive line also in the state. Where's Morrilton going to fall in this? And, they're traditionally always in the mix.
Man, the Central is so – last year it was like pretty much – like when you went into the season, it was pretty much Robinson's to lose, even though they were moving up. Then Mills had that great year. See, the thing about Mills is, I think they're still going to have – you got Charlie Collins, but, man, you lose like your top 3 or 4 receivers. Achilles Ringo, again, one of those really underrated quarterback prospects, but that's going to be, that's going to be some growing adjustments for him. Just breaking in new receivers and all that good stuff, especially with some, Jabray Shaw and Anton Pierce. All these guys are gone now. So, Mills is definitely, I think, going to probably be in the mix again, but Morrilton has a chance. Maumelle, what are they going to do in year 2 under Brian Mopp? Yeah, I was about to forget his name, Brian Moppin. And then also too, with you mentioned Morrilton, Pine Bluff in year 2 under Michael Williams. Yeah. And hey, Whitehall. When you got, what was that, Bray, you said about Garrett? When you got something to play for, I'll let you finish it.
Yeah, you got someone to play for.
Yeah.
You're unstoppable,
right?
And that team's got someone to play for right now.
Absolutely, and that's what it boils down to. I mean, I talked to Ryan a week before the tragedy happened, and you could just sense. And look, I know it's easy to say you could sense excitement. Because it's right before the season and all that, but he truly believed that this is going to be a more improved team. And now that they have him to play for, and also to Ben Reddicks, who their star senior from last year that passed away a month prior. I mean, just so much tragedy that town has endured. So last year the Central was not. We'll call it what it is. It wasn't very competitive.
Yeah.
This year it's going to be.
Yeah. Well, and Bray, I know you talked to Ryan quite a bit. You're good friends.
Mm-hmm.
And talking to you, he was excited about his football team coming up this year.
Yeah, I tried to hire him, for a couple months. And there's no chance I'm leaving this team right now. And he loved those kids and was very excited about them. And I was really looking forward to this fall.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully, they bounce back.
I do, man. And this is one of those things.
You got to pull for them.
Right. I keep an open mind with my job. I'm a CAC Mustang, but I love it when they win. But I obviously keep an open mind. But this is one of those years that I'm kind of.
You got to pull for the Whitehall.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bulldogs.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
Well, Mouth, let's just, before I get off and we'll turn it over to you, let's hit Robinson one more time. Scola's done a great job.
Another team that just reloads.
Yeah,
you got Quentin Murphy there. He was committed to Ole Miss because he's probably going to play quarterback. I mean, he's just pretty much an athlete, but he really started getting looks after, I think, camps prior to his sophomore year, but committed to Ole Miss for a little bit, decided he might have committed a little bit too soon, and now he's reopened, but he's got Power 5 offers out the wazoo. And so I think that, he starts with him. Now you lose a stud back in Noah Freeman, but a 1,500-yard rusher. But again, that's the Robinson way. You just reload and reload.
And they played Parkview, pretty
They did. I covered that game. Yeah,
and it was
very physical, and it was. I mean, Parkview they ran the ball better, and they faked a field goal, which was pretty much the turning point of the game, in my opinion. But yeah, that was a slugfest as we thought it would be.
Mouth 5A.
Well, I must say 5A I'm real excited about the Camden Cardinals with Nick. I have a long history with Nick Vaughn. He was with my dad and Scott Reed at Forest City, and then Nick went on to El Dorado with us when Scott and my dad went to El Dorado as athletic director and head coach. And Nick's first season, winning 10 games, where are you going to go from that? I mean,
got to be a quarterback.
He just set the bar high, but I'm not surprised because he comes from a football fan.
Oh,
His dad, great coach at Whitehall.
Yep.
At Whitehall, and he says they've got athletes coming, and just on a side note to Camden, the coach before Nick, Jake Munden, was a former El Dorado assistant, and on the park, Nick told me, golly, 2 years ago, he said, or coming into this season where Parkview just won the championship, he said, they're loaded.
Yeah.
They're loaded.
Everybody knew that. And they're loaded again.
And now I said, how are they going? He said, they're loaded. They're loaded again. They've got D1 prospects.
You know, I actually watched that Camden Parkview game. It was week 10.
Yeah.
And Parkview dominated. I mean, I watched it, but it's Nick's first year, and if anybody can match athletes with me, it might be Camden Fairview. I had a friend of mine who saw him at a team camp this year at War Memorial, and he said they got some guys, and he felt like they would have a chance.
And I think Hot Springs is going to be in that mix again too. Daryl Burnett that's another one.
Well, and I'm going to throw this at you too with Daryl Burnett. He hired a guy named Brian Henry, who's related to Cole last year, as his offense coordinator. They worked together at Bucket and Fairview, and he's a difference maker.
And you're not supposed to, and this is nothing against Hot Springs, but you're not technically supposed to be as good as he's done. That's not a lot of history there. And I'm being kind of saying that loosely, like it can obviously be done because he's doing it, but that's the thing too is it's a really tough job to win there, but he is getting everything out of those kids.
Well, Daryl's a great coach,
Absolutely.
and he's put together a great staff. Saw them a couple of times, and I think they're going in the right direction, and if they keep going the way they're going, they're all also in the mix.
Yeah.
Well, let's wrap this up, and Kyle, tell us everybody where they can find you, and with all this information you're giving, tell us where they can find you.
Yeah, so you can find me personally at K_Sutherland, SUTHERLANDAR. That's my Twitter handle, and I'm very active on there. Or on social media, you can find SB Live at SB Live ARC. And of course, all of our written content and everything that we do is on our website, scorebooklive.com/Arkansas.
Bray.
Yes, sir. You can find us on Coaches Pod is our handle, Coaches POD on Twitter, as well as Instagram. Our home base is on YouTube right now, soon to potentially move to Apple Podcasts, but just search Coaches in the Mouth and then you'll find us. Like and subscribe.
Make sure you like and subscribe. That's one thing I've learned on this show. Like and subscribe is
very
a big
important.
deal.
That's what I do every time y'all release an episode. Jeff, you send them to me, but I do have the notification up.
Yeah, like and subscribe.
Give it a thumbs up.
Well, we're going to stop this segment, and we'll look forward. Appreciate you coming on. We're going to hit a little 6A, 7A here in a few minutes.